wanted to actually talk about this article that I read earlier last year. It's 7 reasons why most musicians fail. Welcome to the DIY Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Nico Santana. This is brought to you by DistroKid. Get 7% off your yearly membership plan, distrokid.com/VIP/Nico Santana. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the DIY Artist Podcast. This is episode 7 of 7 to end season 1 of the DIY Artist Podcast, the launching season, the first season of the DIY Artist Podcast. This would not be possible without our good friends over at DistroKid. I'm rocking the DistroKid merch, as you can see here. Actually, I made this hoodie, believe it or not, but DistroKid has been pivotal in my life as an artist, in my journey as a DIY artist myself, and obviously as somebody who continuously uses the product. I've seen so many benefits from it, not just saving a little bit of money here and there with distribution, but of course also all the great features that come along wrapped up into a very budget-friendly annual membership. And if you want to save a little bit more, if you're not already part of the community, go ahead and tap into distrokid.com/VIP/Nico Santana for 7% off your first year's annual membership plan. This does exclude you, unfortunately, if you are already a member, if you already have an account. If you want to create a second account, you can take advantage of that, of course. But again, 7% off your yearly membership plan. So thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this whole season, and they've agreed to actually sponsor 2 more seasons of the DIY Artist Podcast. So be on the lookout for that. 7 more episodes per season, and I will condense them to make them 20 minutes, no more than 25 minutes per episode. They will be actually linked on YouTube to a different YouTube channel. So it's going to be the DistroKid, or the DIY Artist. They should be called the DistroKid DIY Artist Podcast channel. It's the DIY Artist Podcast channel. It'll be linked on my YouTube here if you're watching from YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts from, just head over to the YouTube and you can find the link there. I will be utilizing my personal Nico Santana YouTube for more how-to videos and that sort of thing. And then, of course, documenting my journey as a DIY artist myself, and hopefully sharing more music this year. So I really only recorded like 2 or 3 songs this past year, 2021. So 2022, I hope to increase my production and increase a little bit more of my output there with music. It's just been a busy year for me personally. So thank you guys for tuning in to this last and final episode of this DIY Artist Podcast Season 1. And so with 2022, of course, the start of the new year, I wanted to reflect on a couple things. Number one, where are you in your journey? I know that's something that I ask myself, and I have to ask myself in every endeavor, in every aspect of my life. Where am I in my journey? And then number 2, what are ways that I can improve 1% each day? And understanding the landscape, understanding kind of the market in business terms, and then understanding myself, having more of that, but having a little bit more of that self-awareness is the word. Understanding myself a little bit more can help me navigate these worlds and help me understand where I personally fit in, where I can personally succeed with a little bit less effort, because I'm naturally more inclined to succeed. And so it's both and, right? It's both the market, it's both the external factors and those internal factors. So I wanted to actually talk about this article that I read earlier last year. It said top 7 reasons, 7 quote unquote controllable reasons, but we'll talk about whether it is or not controllable. 7 reasons why most musicians fail. And so with that, I also wanted to segue after that into opportunities for 2022 for yourself as your own music brand, music company, music artist, of course, your own business. And then even just as a person, that's one thing that I've been trying to focus on, is kind of getting out of my own way, if you will, understanding things that perhaps have become roadblocks because I've let them as an artist, and also things that I can kind of tap into so that I can become a better artist moving forward. And that usually is a holistic approach. So number 1 is a little bit harsh, and I personally don't think it is controllable, but let's rephrase it to make it controllable. So the way that the article reads it, it says you don't have enough talent. Wow. Okay. So if we don't have enough talent, we fail. Now, I kind of disagree with this. I think that there are people who aren't born with a plethora of talent, but they have some talents, and they can allocate these talents to a passion of theirs, music wise or not, and then from there build skill on top of that talent. But let me talk to you about or sharing an example here. I just finished reading a book called Atomic Habits. It's by an artist or author named James Clear, and he talks about kind of like these natural abilities that we have, or even genetic dispositions or talents or gifts, whatever it is that we're born with. So he compared two athletes. They're both Olympic athletes, and I'm blanking out on their names here, so forgive me. The first one was a swimmer, right? And his torso was, I think he was 6'4". His torso was larger or longer than his than his legs were, right? So he had that anatomic ability to be kind of better equipped for swimming, and the long distance runner that he referred to had the same pants inseam as this particular Olympian swimmer, and he was actually a long distance runner, but because his legs were so long, it actually molded him or gave him the ability to run long distances better. And so if they traded positions, even though they were both Olympic athletes and both best in class in their particular sport, would they perform just as well? And the answer to that question is no. Even if they trained equally as hard, they had natural inclinations, natural tendencies that gave them the ability to succeed, or at least to be at the top of the top. And so that's kind of something that I've had to think about myself, is what are some of my natural abilities, things that come easy to me and that I can build up on, and how do these fit in the music world? Like, I'm not a natural vocalist. I'm not somebody who has a great voice. I'm not somebody who is a great singer with natural dominion or of their pitch and tone and that sort of thing. So I do rely on technology like pitch correct and auto-tune, and I'm not afraid to say I'm transparent here, to make me sound that much better. But of course I know that I'm limited, because even the best pitch corrector, even the best auto-tune is not going to replace that natural ability, and somebody who does have that will obviously succeed. So I have to take that into consideration myself and see, well, should I be a vocalist? Should I sing? Should I just stick to rapping? Should I even rap at all? Like, am I even a good rapper? And do I find it difficult, or is it a little bit easier? And of course, there's skills that are developed through time, and somebody who has natural ability but doesn't develop those skills may not succeed as much as somebody who has less talent, if you will, or less ability naturally, but works hard at it every day. So something to think about. I think if 2022 had kind of a goal roadmap for myself, I would say, what comes easy to me? What am I a little bit better at than kind of just the general market, and how can I hone in on that ability? Number 2, you don't market your music well. Wow. Okay, so the DIY Artist podcast obviously kind of helps us see and hear from other artists who are on this journey ourselves, like with us or alongside us, or have experienced similar things as we have. And the last 6 episodes, if you haven't seen it, I've created a playlist on YouTube where you can catch all 6 episodes. But we talk about ways that we can market our music. My buddy Joey, he was interviewed last podcast episode, and he talked about using Facebook groups, believe it or not, Facebook groups to market his music, to create a little bit of a community there. And then whether it was marketing his music, selling his merch, whatever it was, there was more of an interaction there. It was more of a community. It was more of a two-way thing versus just posting on a different platform and just kind of setting it and forgetting it. So I think that there's opportunities there. I don't think there's always going to be a tried and true method. I think for the most part, we have to experiment, explore. And then when we find that one thing that really captivates our audiences the best, then exploit, to a degree, obviously ethically and whatnot. But I think you just run with it and go for it until it plateaus, because naturally marketing is always going to plateau. People get tired of the same thing, the same messages, the same presentations, the same content, the same formulas, even the same platforms. Which is why, Instagram of today is not what it was 5 years ago. Why TikTok is the new rave and Instagram is falling behind. Why different platforms have catapulted, and even the way that you create content on something like YouTube is way different than back in my day when I started in 2007. Number 3, you make yourself the main focus. Huge, man. I learned this the hard way. Back in 2016 when I rebranded, I understood that, or rather, I focused more on what I could get out of music and what I could do for myself. And honestly, out of my 10 plus year journey as a DIY artist, that was probably the worst move. That was probably the worst phase of my journey. That, in essence, kind of turned me inward and didn't let me see and be kind of tapped into the community, be tapped into my audience, right? So I've heard this from different people. Some people say, make music for yourself and that sort of thing. And I think partly that's true. I think that there is the opportunity to make music enjoyable and kind of have that be a thing, right? But also I think you have to think of your audience. What do they like about you? What do they listen to? What are they listening to? And then of course your immediate community, your producer community, collaborating with other people. What are they doing well that you can complement, and what are areas of opportunities for them that you can complement, right? That's why I started this DIY Artist podcast and the community here, because I saw a need for it. I got a ton of messages throughout the year 2021 asking me questions about different things, and I figured, why not give people the platform to speak on these subjects if they're already doing well at them, or have a conversation and just give us the opportunity to kind of hash this out together. So again, number 3, you make yourself the main focus. It's kind of ironic when I'm making this podcast by myself here, but it's kind of last minute, and I didn't want to let the year start without having this podcast episode. Number 4, you think you can do it all yourself. Obviously, as a DIY artist, you want to try to do as much yourself. Get your hand in as many things as you can to learn, to understand. But the reality is we really can't do everything ourselves. I've outsourced music videos in the past. I've gone to music studios in the past. I've gone to photography studios and done photo shoots, things that I think, I can kind of do to a certain degree. But once it reaches a point where I need to take it to the next step, I will outsource, and I have budgets for that. So I think it is important to learn all aspects of being an artist, even just so you understand, to kind of protect yourself, to see, well, is this music video really worth $15,000, or is there something else that I could do in the interim? But eventually you do want to get to a place where you start outsourcing things so that, number 1, you can focus on your craft and you can be a little bit more focused and clear on what you do and do that really well. And then number 2, understanding that there are other people that can kind of come in and there could be that mutual relationship where they benefit from you, you benefit from them, and that sort of thing. Number 5, you don't treat your music career like a business. Whew. It's hard, man. It's hard because music obviously is a passion for us, right? A lot of the times when we make music, it's from the heart. It's because of what we're feeling. But business can be a very objective thing. At least successful businesses are not necessarily driven by the emotion. It's not driven by the feeling. And it's very counterintuitive to music creation, at least music creation that I'm used to. It's not mechanical. It's not robotic. Music creation is very much empathy, right? And sometimes business is lack of empathy, and you kind of just go with what drives the profit. But I think finding that balance for me, both keeping track of my financials, understand what's coming in, what's going out, what will make me profit, and sometimes where I'll say, you know what, this may not make me profit in the long or in the short run, but it might make me profit in the long run, or at least it's an opportunity for me to learn something, right? So different ways. That's definitely a tricky one. You don't treat your music career like a business. I mean, obviously you want to be profitable if you want to make a living from your music. You want to find things that can sustain you, can help take care of you, your immediate needs at least. And then from there, having surplus to reinvest back into your business, back into your brand, back into your music. Number 6, you put out below par products. If you're a perfectionist like myself, this can be kind of a bad thing to hear, because you feel like you don't put out good enough products to begin with. So when somebody says you put out below par products, I mean, is that really the reason why you're failing? And oftentimes, actually, it's the opposite. If you're a perfectionist, you're just not putting out enough, or you're not producing enough, you're not practicing enough, you're too stifled by that fear of failure, and you're too stifled by perfectionism. So it can go both ways in my personal opinion. But according to this article, if you put out below par products, there's some artists that have blown up on TikTok with, half-baked, half-cooked songs, and then eventually they've, done a couple iterations where now it's a professionally produced product. But the reality is we do want to compete with a very professional, polished industry. So if you are competing with both the indie market and the record label major music industry market, you're definitely going to have to invest in your production. You're definitely going to have to invest in your visuals at a bare minimum. And then from there, of course, your continued development, self-development, vocal training, all that stuff. Things that I, talk about, but it's hard. It's easier said than done, right? And number 7, you don't invest in your music career. That's a good segue for what I was talking about, which is, again, developing yourself, buying the right equipment, simplifying things in a way where it makes it easy for you to create, but at the same time having the right equipment that makes you sound polished, professional. And honestly, nowadays it doesn't require a whole lot. You can really get away with a lot with just an interface, a good interface, and a decent microphone. As long as you have, some sound padding, maybe some soundproofing, somebody can really tweak your vocals to make them sound great. And then of course, we all know that with different DAWs, you can really make do with that. So 7 reasons why most musicians fail. I don't want you to fail this year. I want you to succeed. I definitely want to win this year. And I think that the more we pour into each other, the more we can make that happen for us. But what are the opportunities for 2022? Again, this is kind of a situation where it's like, oh, those things make me feel uncomfortable, right? But I think that as long as we're realistic with ourselves, self-aware enough, we can navigate through those things and help ourselves really avoid those 7 reasons why most musicians fail, and then hopefully grow into that those opportunities. So a few opportunities that I'm looking into. Of course, NFTs have been all the rave, basically in 2021, right? So I'm personally taking a step back and learning more about the technology behind NFTs. I'm not, even though I was fortunate enough to be one of the 10,000 artists that got selected through DistroKid's Sellout NFT, their NFT thing, right? Their project, right? I thought that was a great opportunity for me to step into the world of NFTs and kind of understand, or at least see the community, see what lies behind the curtain essentially, and then from there grow a little bit more. So right now I'm taking a step back and learning more about blockchain technology and understanding that, just because I'm the type of person that likes to know the inner workings of something before I really dive deep into it. But I know that there's opportunity there for artists, and I honestly don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg yet. I think that there's a lot more opportunity there with NFTs. Obviously, I think that collaborations should continue to happen. I think that if you're not already collaborating with different artists, you can learn a ton from different artists. Even just having these conversations on the DIY Artist podcast, or anywhere else for that matter, offline or online, I think that's a great opportunity for 2022. We've obviously been socially distanced for the better part of 2021 and 2020 as well. So rekindling those connections with your musician friends, having some sort of cadence where you're communicating and just talking to people. Obviously, productivity is important, but it's effortless when you're just producing, and you're not really going in the right direction. I think that's where taking a step back, reflecting a little bit, having these conversations with other DIY artists has helped me personally grow into becoming a better artist. Of course, budgeting, finances, all that stuff, I think that's important. But as far as other opportunities go, man, I think that there are some great things that can happen in 2022 if you're creating an online community. Again, Joey showed us that Facebook groups is still popping. So, look into that. DistroKid has some great features coming out in 2022. I'm not allowed to speak about them, but there will be some greater opportunities for indie artists as well using DistroKid. And then, of course, the internet and non-internet tools will help you grow as an artist in 2022. So if you have any suggestions as far as opportunities or things that you're going to be doing and implementing this year, let us know. Feel free to share. Comment in the comment section below if you're on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to your podcast from, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email, nicosantanainfo@gmail.com. Of course, go on the YouTube, check it out there, and comment on that comment section below. Again, we're going to transition over to the DIY Artist Podcast channel for this particular podcast. I'm going to try to condense these episodes to 20 minutes. And in February, we'll be back in full effect with more guests, more interviews, more conversations like this. I want to know what you guys want to hear, what you're interested in. Let me know, of course. And again, thank you guys so much for making this podcast so successful in 2021. I appreciate the support from DistroKid. Definitely appreciate the support from you guys. Dropping likes, comments, all that good stuff, wherever you get your podcast from. If you're on YouTube, again, thank you. Much love. All the best in 2022, and I hope to see you at the top.